Your cat is sitting on the desk. There is a pen near the edge. It has been there for 2 days. Your cat looks at you, looks at the pen, and then, slowly, deliberately, with full eye contact, pushes it off, watches it fall, then sits there. Most people laugh. Some find it irritating. Almost everyone lands on the same explanation. The cat is being a cat. Chaotic, contrary, doing it for a reaction. And that explanation is close enough to satisfying that most people never look further. But behavioral researchers who have studied this specific action, the deliberate, visually monitored push, found something in the mechanics of the watching behavior that doesn't fit any of those readings. That finding, which we'll reach in the final part of this video, changes what that moment on the desk actually was. To get there, we have to start where the behavior starts, with the paw. The swipe that sends an object over the edge is not random. Ethologist Paul Lyhausen documented this in his foundational work on feline predatory behavior, published in 1979. What he described was a fixed action pattern, a hardwired motor sequence built into cats through millions of years of predatory evolution. That sequence runs in a specific order: orient, stalk, chase, grab, kill. Each component is neurologically distinct, and Lyhausen's central finding was that any component in that sequence can be triggered independently by the right stimulus without requiring the full sequence to complete. A small object on a flat surface, the right size, the right weight, sitting in open space, activates the grab and manipulate component directly. The object does not need to be prey. It needs to fit the stimulus profile. When it does, the motor program fires. The fall is not the goal. The fall is the byproduct of a hunt the cat's nervous system initiated without a prey animal to finish it on. That's not mischief. That's a reflex with millions of years of predatory evolution behind it. But the swipe explains the contact. It does not explain what happens before it. If you watch a cat closely in the seconds before an object goes over the edge, there is almost always a preliminary touch. Slower, softer, more deliberate than the push that follows. Most people read this as hesitation, or as the cat deciding whether the object is worth the effort. Neither is accurate. Cats carry a high concentration of mechanoreceptors in their paw pads. Specialized receptors tuned to pressure, vibration, and texture. That slow preliminary contact is not a warm-up. It is a measurement. The cat is reading the object, its mass, its resistance, whether it yields or holds. By the time the push happens, the cat already knows how the object will behave. That's not casual contact. That's data collection with a purpose. Now, here is the explanation most owners arrive at when the behavior becomes a pattern. The cat does it for attention. This reading is not entirely wrong. Research on domestic cat social behavior has documented that cats adjust owner-directed behaviors based on whether the owner is visibly attentive, deploying solicitation behaviors strategically when they want interaction. If knocking produces a reaction, the behavior can be reinforced. That mechanism is real, but it is narrower than the full picture. The attention explanation makes a testable prediction. The behavior should concentrate in the owner's presence and drop when no one is watching. For cats, where owner attention is the primary driver, it does. The problem is that many cats don't follow this pattern. The behavior continues when the owner leaves the room. In some cases, when the owner isn't home at all. When the behavior persists without an audience, attention cannot be the origin point. Something else was already operating before the cat learned a reaction would follow. Attention reinforcement is a layer on top of something deeper, not the source of it. What that deeper layer includes is territory, specifically, the way cats maintain their understanding of the spaces they inhabit. Research on feline territorial behavior has documented that domestic cats maintain detailed internal maps of their home environments. tracking not just the layout of a space, but the distribution of objects within it. When elements of that environment shift from their expected configuration, cats respond with investigative and displacement behavior. An object that is new to a surface, or that has recently moved, represents an unresolved variable in a space the cat has otherwise mapped. Pushing it off resolves the anomaly. The map is current again. Think about what that means. The pen that has been sitting on your desk for 3 days is not invisible to your cat. It registered the moment it arrived. The cat has simply been deciding what to do with it. The desk is not your workspace. It is a section of your cat's territory that you happen to use. This explains why cats engage with unfamiliar or recently repositioned objects. It does not explain why cats knock over objects they have interacted with before. Familiar objects, stable objects, objects they have already pushed off that same surface a dozen times. For those cases, a different mechanism is operating. Research on environmental enrichment in domestic cats has consistently found that when a cat's environment lacks sufficient complexity, behavioral signs of that deficit appear early. Object manipulation, displacement, and repetitive investigative contact are among the first to emerge. But the critical detail is what kind of stimulation the understimulated nervous system is actually seeking. Not stimulation in general. Unpredictable stimulation. Outcomes that cannot be fully anticipated in advance. A toy the cat has already mapped, one whose behavior is entirely predictable, provides almost no regulatory value. An object that might fall easily or might not, depending on the angle and force of contact, provides exactly what that nervous system is looking for. The cat is not bored of stimulation in general. It is seeking a specific kind, the kind that hasn't been solved yet. That is why the same pen on the same desk gets pushed off again. The outcome is probable, but it is never fully certain until the push happens. The interaction remains, on some level, open, and then the object falls, and the cat watches. That watching is what the forward reference was planted around. We have now established what drives the paw contact, the push, the repetition. The question that remains, the one the standard explanations never address, is what the cat is actually doing in the seconds after the object disappears from the surface. For a long time, object permanence, the understanding that an object continues to exist after it leaves the perceptual field, was considered a cognitive capacity largely specific to humans, and, to a limited degree, other primates. The working assumption about most other animals, cats included, was that objects that left the perceptual field were effectively lost. Out of sight meant gone. Research testing this assumption in domestic cats found something different. Cats reliably demonstrate object permanence through successive visible displacement, tracking objects moved through multiple visible locations, at a level comparable to human infants around 8 to 12 months of age. Whether cats fully grasp invisible displacement, in which an object is moved while hidden, remains an open question, with results varying depending on how the task is structured. What is established is that the cat does not simply lose the object when it falls from view. The cat knows where it went. It has already computed a prediction about where the object should be. What the behavior on the desk may actually be then is this. The cat pushes the object, tracks its trajectory, registers where it lands, and updates its internal model of the environment accordingly. It may be running an object permanence check, confirming that the world is behaving the way it expects the world to behave, that an object displaced in space continues to exist at a location that can be computed from the displacement. Think about that. Every knocked over glass, every swept off pen, every slow deliberate push from the edge of the desk, it may draw on the same cognitive architecture a cat uses when it sits outside a closed door and waits. It knows something is on the other side. It has modeled the environment past the limit of its current perception. The cat is not making a mess. It may be running a small experiment in applied physics, using the same machinery that allows it to track prey it cannot currently see. The cat that holds eye contact and pushes your pen to the floor is not defying you. It is thinking. It just happens to think with its paws. If you want to understand what your cat is doing when it stares at you for 30 seconds and then slowly closes its eyes, that behavior has a neurological explanation too, and what it communicates is more deliberate than most owners ever realize.